So let's take a look at some of the basic functions of a Google Doc. When I'm in my Google Drive, I'm going to go ahead and click New, and I will have the option of creating a new doc. So I'm going to go here and click Google Docs. This will pull up a blank document. And from here I can begin really, my editing process and putting in whatever content I want to. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to title your document something. And if you go ahead and click at the top here where it says Untitled Document, and I'm just going to name this test document for now, but understand or remember, in one of the first videos we talked about the importance of naming conventions. You want to make sure you give your document a name that is something that you're going to remember, or remember what it refers to if you come back to it. If you just name it something generic like test document, I might come back to this in a month and have no idea what sort of content is in there. So it's very important to keep in mind the naming conventions. Once I click OK, you can see that my document has been renamed. If I feel like, this name doesn't really make sense to me, or I'm not sure I'm going to remember it, I can always click on it and rename it again. Another thing you can do is star the document. If you feel like this is a document you're going to come back to and work on frequently or often, or at least for some period of time, you can go ahead and star it and we'll go into that starred folder, which is kind of like your priority folder of documents. You can always unstar it and then it will just be removed into your normal Google Drive. The next thing that I can do is move my document to a folder. And I can click on this folder icon and it will bring up all the list of folders that I currently have within Google Drive. I can put it into one of these folders, or I can create a new folder if I felt that this content needed to go somewhere else. The importance of putting this document into a folder really helps you with that organizational piece. I don't have to do it right now, but let's say I didn't move it into a folder, it just gets put into my drive with a whole long list of other documents. Putting it into a folder will ensure I at least have some sort of organizational structure going on within my drive as a whole, and I won't be overwhelmed when I go to look at it later on. If I go to look at my Google Doc, you can see it looks a lot like some other word processing tools we're used to, such as Microsoft Word, and I have all of my normal tabs up here, options, and I have my rich text editor down here. To the left or right, I have a couple other things. I have a place where I can open a comment thread. So this will allow people to put comments on the document, which actually don't become edits in the document, but they would live over here. So there might be comments on some of the content. I can also change my share settings if I want to share this document with other people. Please note that when you first make a doc, it is automatically defaulted to be private to only you. So you do have to change your share settings whenever you want to share this document with others, especially if you're planning on sharing it with a group of students. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's take a look at some of these tabs here just so you understand what you can do with each of these. File is just like some of your other file options in other tools. One option that I want to point out is the share button is also here. So if you want to change your share settings at any time, you can find it here. If you want to make a copy of this document, so if you wanted this test document to be the original and I want to make a copy so I don't make any changes or mess up anything, I can do that. This other one that I think is really important is see revision history. And what this allows you to do is you get a pop-up over here and it tells you who was the last person to edit it, and you can show changes or more detailed revisions. So let's say you're working on a document with several people, or your students are working on a document in a group and someone deletes some content or someone changes content. You can see the revision history and get a list of the items that were changed as well as who made those changes. This is really important for students when they're doing collaborative group work to know that that feature exists so they're not editing or changing stuff that they shouldn't be. They know that there's some accountability to this whole thing. In our edit tab, just like normal editing, we can undo, we can redo, copy paste, those kinds of things. In our view, we have the ability to change what view we're looking at with our document. We can make it full screen, we can make it compact controls. One of the things you can change is the mode. And what this means is, right now I am in an editing mode where I can edit this document directly. I can change to a suggesting mode where when people make edits, it's really a suggestion and they can't actually make the physical edit to the document. This is great if you do a lot of work and you just want some feedback. You don't necessarily want someone to directly edit your document. Or I can leave it in a viewing mode, which would mean that whoever is looking at this document only can read or print a final version of this document. Insert allows us to insert a lot of different things. We can insert images, links. For math or science people, we can do something with equations. And then we have kind of, our page formatting stuff like a header, a footer. One thing I want to point out is the bookmarks option. The bookmarks option is great if you have a really long document. Let's say my document is 40 pages long and I have specific sections. I can bookmark specific sections so that users can click on a hyperlink, which would show on the top, and it would jump them to a particular place in the document. And as I said before, this is really great if you have a long document and people just need to refer to specific sections of the document. Formatting is just like you are probably accustomed to, bold, italic, underline, some of the same things you can do right here. Then I have my tools, normal typical tools, but one thing I want to point out is the research function. And we're going to talk more about this later, but I'm just going to pop it open real quick. Research function allows you to actually do some research right inside of Google and then actually insert that information into your document. It's a great way to research specific topics without having to jump to something else. And again, we're going to talk about more of that in a different module. You can insert tables, and your add-ons, which is also one of our last modules, allows you to add some specific add-ons and apps to your document to make changes to it. We'll talk about that, as I said, later on. And then your help section, if any of this didn't make sense to you, you can certainly click here and search for some help. So that's kind of the basis of your document. If I type something here, then I can go ahead and I can highlight it, I can make my changes, I could, let's just try this, I can insert a comment and I could say, what is this referring to? And click the comment thing, and whoever's document this belongs to will have this little highlighted area here, and then on the side they will have a comment dialog, and they can click on it and they can reply and say I meant, so on and so forth, and you can essentially create a whole dialogue about one specific section within your document. This is great for teachers working with papers with students. If you want to pull up their paper, you look at it, you want to leave some comments over here, they can maybe explain it to you or they can fix it. And once that comment has been fixed or rectified, they can click resolve and that will end that discussion. That will get rid of the highlighting that was there. Let's quickly jump to share settings. So as I mentioned, the documents are automatically set to private to you. And what I can do is I can get in this simple share view and I can type in the name of a person I want to share the document with. And if they're in Eden Prairie schools, they're going to pop up right away. If they're outside of Eden Prairie schools, I'd have to add an email address. And I can add a note, and I can say this doc is about, and whatever it's about. And then I can click notify people via email, and that will send this document directly to the email with this message attached. Now you can see right here that I am sharing this with myself, and I am saying I can edit the document. Let's say you want to share it with someone, but you don't want them to have that privilege. You click on the arrow, and you can say whether or not they can comment on the document, so they can give you feedback, but they can't actually make any edits to it. Or they can just simply view it, and that's their only option. So you decide what you would like people to do. If you are going to make a copy that you're going to share with a lot of people, like your students, you're going to upload it into Schoology, I would suggest you make it can view. What will happen for students is they will open it, and if you actually do want them to do any work on it, they would make their own copy, do the work, and resubmit it to you. What that will do is allow this main document here to stay as a master document. If you don't leave it that way and just say can edit, that means anytime a student types in the document, answers a question, does whatever, that's going to update for every single person that the document is shared with. I can click here to get the shareable link, and that will allow me to copy and paste and put in stuff like Schoology. But let's go to these advanced options real quick, because you may want to do this. As you can see right now, it is private, I'm the only one who can access it. It tells you who the owner of the document is, and I can always transfer ownership once I have more people. Once I've invited people, they will show up down here. So I always have a list of who has access. I can click change if I want to share the link. And this is really important, as I mentioned, if you're going to be sharing this, let's say with your students, and you just want to put a link on a website, you certainly do not want to type in the name of all 30 to 35 of your students. Instead, what I can do is I can change these share settings. And I typically like to say public, anyone on the web can find this document and use it if they want to. It's kind of up to you. I am assuming no one is searching right now on Google for a document called test document. But if you're uncomfortable with that, you can say anyone who has the link or anyone at Eden Prairie Schools. Any one of these three options would be fine for your students. And then you have to check here to make sure that you have the right settings. Again, if you only want students to be able to view it, which most likely you only want your students to be able to view a document. If it's a group collaborative document for the whole class, you might put can edit there. And then I would just go ahead and I would click save. And you can see now that my access settings has changed. Public on the web, anyone on the internet can find and view. And I could go ahead and I could send this to myself or whoever I'm going to. For now, I'm just going to cancel it. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click done. If I hover over this, I can now see that my share settings have changed to be public. Keep in mind, if kids can't access your document, it probably has something to do with your share settings. So that is an overview of Google Docs, and part of your weekly task for this week is going to be working with Docs and working with its share settings. So you will find that in the discussion attached to this video.